Welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I want us to talk about Brigadier Gininda, the IO of the Senzo Meyiwa case. Guys, if there are people that do not have peaceful sleep in South Africa, it's Brigadier Gininda and Baloyi because, guys, things are not looking good. Oh, Sana, things are not looking great, okay? Nothing is working out on their side because, wow, Sana, what a wow. They never thought about it, ne? They really never thought about it. They thought if they can move things around, shift things around, lie about people here and there, things are just going to shape, and then people will go to prison for a crime they did not do. Their mistake was to come for this innocent Ndanzi, number one. The second mistake was to come for the so called dangerous man and thinking that God is going to say, yeah, sure, why not? We can sacrifice them. We've done it before to Jesus Christ. We can do it to them too. uNkulunkulu wathi cha asidlali. Uyabona la asidlali. I know who they are. I know who he is. Don't you dare. They touched the wrong people, son. Yabona, they chose the wrong accused. These ones are not the ones, Gesan. These ones are not the ones. We have one abantu that you know Jehovah will go on war with the devil with them, will squeeze the devil for them. Yabondanzi is not the one to be played with. Yabona this year, this 6 years that he spent in jail for this case, it will come multiple, in multifolds, sana for him. It will make him a better man in so many ways than one. Uthixo is not going to allow it. For Undanzi, akavuma. I think the others are even sponging off from Undanzi because the wealth that Undanzi is going to have after this entire ordeal, I do not want to talk about it. I do not want to talk about it. This is a Joseph situation. This is exactly the Joseph situation. Sold by his brothers, even though Ndanzi was never sold by no brother. Okay, Ndanzi was sold by, who's this man? Zungu, the constable. But Ndanzi is going to survive this, and Ndanzi is going to be okay. He's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. Really okay. Do you understand? I don't know what God's plan is when it comes to the other four, but I do know when it comes to Ndanzi, there's a bigger plan. And there is a bigger plan also for those ones, but I'm not sure on what context. Only heaven knows. Guys, what to Jehovah? So now we have Ugininda, who is stressed here. I doubt if he sleeps peacefully these days. He can't be sleeping peacefully. The Gininda problem is what exactly is the case against the 5 accused? Because the one that we are witnessing is falling apart every day. So, Gininda, what exactly is the case against the 5 accused? Tell us, Mhlop. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is a question hanging over the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial that becomes bigger with every witness, every cross-examination, and every piece of evidence that gets tested in court. What exactly is Brigadier Bongani Gininda's case against the 5 accused? Because if we are being honest, the state came to court with confidence. They told South Africa they had solved the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. They told the nation they had identified the killers. They told us they had a watertight case. But 6 years into this trial, many South Africans are still asking the same question. Where is the evidence that directly linked these 5 accused people to the murder of Senzo Meyiwa? Show it, prove it. Let's start with accused number 1. The state investigation relied heavily on what they called confessions. We were told this confession would help unlock the mystery of Senzo Meyiwa's murder. But then a serious problem emerged. The confession allegedly refers to individuals who are not even before the court. People whose names surfaced in the narrative were never charged alongside the accused. They are not sitting in the dock. They are not defending themselves. They are nowhere to be found in this trial. Mind you, this accused number 1 was said to be the man that voluntarily confessed to the crime or to confessed to his involvement in the crime. But now, problem is, what do you mean you confessed freely and voluntarily, willingly, yet you give wrong names? Make it make sense. Make it make sense, Gesana. Because what? That immediately creates a credibility problem. If the confession is true, where are those people? If they were involved, why are they never charged? Why were they never charged? If they were not involved, why do they appear in the confession? These are not small questions. These are massive questions. Then we move to accused number 2, Bongani Ndanze. The state says he made 2 confessions. The defense says those confessions contain contradictions and inconsistencies. Now think about that for a second. How does a person voluntarily confess more than once, yet the version do not perfectly align? Make it make sense, please. How does the same event produce different narratives? Because now Bongani Ndanze's 2 narratives are not quite similar. And then there is also accused number 1. It's the same event. Come on. So what do you mean? Accused number 1's event even says this happened on a Saturday, Sabata, on a Sabbath day. Voluntarily, willingly. That was what Gininda told the court. Now, when it comes to number 2, think about it also. How does a person voluntarily confess for more than once, yet the versions do not perfectly align? How does the same event produce different narratives? How do important details change? The defense says these are not minor mistakes. They say these inconsistencies expose a deeper problem with the reliability of the evidence itself. And every time these contradictions are highlighted in court, the state is forced to explain them. Where did you see a state explaining their case like that? Like that? Isn't supposed to be the defense proving that their client had nothing to do with the crime? Why is the state the one that is explaining itself? Now, that is where things are like seriously like questionable now when it comes to accused number 1 and 2. As if that was not worse, then comes accused number 3. This is where things become even more explosive. For years, South Africans heard about the firearm. The firearm was presented as one of the strongest pieces of evidence linking the accused to the murder. But what happened? Evidence emerged that the firearm had previously been tested and allegedly did not match the Senzo Meyiwa murder. Then suddenly another conclusion appears. Now questions start flooding the courtroom. What changed? Who changed it? What new science was discovered? What new evidence was found? Why are experts reaching completely different conclusions about the same firearm? The defense expert says one thing, the state expert says another. And suddenly, the firearm that was supposedly to strengthen the state's case becomes one of the most fearlessly contested pieces of evidence in the entire trial. Then we get to understand that something is very wrong when it comes to this case, no matter how you look at it. Then we get to accused number 4. Perhaps one of the biggest mysteries in this case. What exactly is his role according to the state? Where is the direct evidence? Where is the witness? Where is the forensic evidence? Where is the undeniable link? The prosecution says conspiracy. The defense says speculation. And those 2 positions are miles apart. Finally, let's get to accused number 5, the alleged driver. This is where the narrative becomes difficult for many observers to understand. The state says he was part of the operation, but the defense asks a simple question. If this man was supposedly involved in the numerous in this crime, then where is the proof? How do you prove that? They do not have. And also the other issue is that we as South African are asking, If Fiso Kutlentuli, who is accused number 5, supposedly was involved in numerous violent crimes and sophisticated criminal operations elsewhere, why would this particular matter require such a complicated arrangement involving multiple accused? This man does not have co-accused in all his other cases. Why must he have co-accused in this one? Make it make sense. Make it make sense, Gesan. Multiple moving parts and multiple layers of planning. Why is he needing all of that? Now, the defense says the story simply doesn't make sense when it comes to the entire situation. And a very unanswered question adds another crack to the state theory. But perhaps the biggest issue of all is this. Throughout the trial, the defense has not merely attacked one piece of evidence. They have attacked everything. They have attacked the confessions. They have attacked the cell phone evidence. They have attacked the ballistic evidence. They have attacked witness credibility. They have attacked the chain of custody. They attack investigative procedures. They attack the timelines. They attack the alleged conspiracy itself. And the result is that many South Africans are no longer debating whether Senzo was murdered. Everyone knows he was murdered. The debate has shifted. The real question now is whether the state has proven that these 5 accused are the people responsible. Because proving that a murder happened is one thing, but proving who committed it is something entirely different. That is the challenge facing Brigadier Gininda's investigation. That is the challenge facing the prosecution, and that is the question that Rata Mokgoatlheng, as the judge, Judge Rata Mokgoatlheng, will eventually have to answer. When all the evidence is finished, when all the witnesses have testified, when all the arguments have been heard, will the evidence form one complete convincing picture? Will it? Or will the court find that there are simply too many unanswered questions? That is the question hanging over this trial. And right now, it remains one of the biggest unanswered questions in the South African criminal justice. And Brigadier Gininda, this is your problem. Prove to South Africans that this case is watertight, as we were told initially. What are your thoughts when it comes to this? Let's talk in the comment section. I want to hear your views. Thank you so much. Please do enjoy your day. Bye-bye.